Hello.
Oh, you were there?
Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming today. Everybody hear me in the back? In March of this year, as Dad's health was noticeably declining, my dad's good friend and old boss at IBM handwrote him a beautiful letter. Some of the excerpts. I have thought about you a lot over the past year and would think about all of the unforeseeable adversity you have faced and so successfully navigated. You are an amazing person and probably the most courageous person I have ever known. In so many ways, I think of you as a true hero, able to conquer adversities where most others do not even try. Many people face difficult obstacles, large and small, and most do not really confront them head on and win the battle. I never saw you fail to confront adversity, especially the toughest head on. And through your determination of will, and by learning and understanding the facts, analyzing the alternatives and building a plan for success, and then persevering to win, and you and Marilyn have had so many more than your share. You have created wonderful, iconic examples for yourselves, your two boys, their children, your business colleagues. You've passed on important life lessons to them and your friends, me included. You are a very special person, and I always thought you should write a book to help others learn and understand how you have accomplished so much under often very difficult conditions. But I also know that as time goes by, as the adversities build, it gets more difficult to be able to continue the offensive. So perhaps there does come a time when we have to value the smaller wins, where we can still push back the obstacles and win the day, and then the week and the month. One time, not long ago, we talked about you taking on a life coach. Well, I scratched my head and I always thought, Jack, you should be the life coach. You do not fully realize how much you have positively influenced so many. As you work your way through these medical issues, if there's anything I can do, please reach out and let me know how I can help. I would be honored. Your friend and always, and that's Ed Holden. My dad was born in New York in March 1946. He had two brothers, Jeff and Joel, and a sister, Judy. They were the 4 J's. Dad was the oldest. His mom, Mary, and my grandma was soft, caring, sweet. And his dad, my grandpa Artie, was a World War II vet, and he was strong, tough, and smart. My dad got the best of both. He was crazy smart. Growing up, helping me with my math, there was no need for a calculator when I had a human one as a dad. He was super caring, genuine, and he was the best listener I have ever met. My dad was always in the moment. Over his early years, a key part of his personality started to evolve that would forge his path ahead, his need to be needed, and it strengthened as time went on. Dad grew up in Livingston, New Jersey, and he graduated high school there. He went on to Stevens Institute of Technology, where he majored in math. He joined a fraternity, Pi Lambda Phi, and he quickly rose to the top as one of the biggest partiers in the house. He couldn't gain weight when he was a kid. He was always frustrated how skinny he was. So he decided what he was going to do is once he got to college, every day he would drink a 6-pack of beer until he started to gain some weight. I'm guessing that only added to his partying ability. Who knows where that trajectory might have taken him if it hadn't been for that life-changing calming moment. A blind date with a beautiful nursing student named Marilyn. One morning, after one of their first few dates at a fraternity, one night, they passed out, woke up in the morning in the same bed together, fully clothed, I might add. And my dad said, quote, "When I woke up, I looked over at Marilyn lying next to me. That was the woman I have to spend the rest of my life with." And on June 15th, they had their 53rd anniversary. Dad went on and got his master's degree at Syracuse. His first job was with IBM. He worked there for 15 years. His starting salary was a whopping $8,000 a year. As a kid growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, but my dad and mom made sure that to make every dollar and minute count. Our big trip once a year was driving down to my grandfather's trailer in Myrtle Beach. There were no iPhones back then to keep us kids busy, so to kill time, my brother and I would count the tan, don't burn, use copper tone billboards, and whoever saw it the most, called him out first, won the game. Anything to keep us from going crazy and to keep mom and dad from killing us. Those were special times, and Dad always made sure that we had fun. And it wasn't just by giving us money to do things, it was by doing things with us. Human pyramids in the pool, frisbee, skee ball, and especially jumping over the waves in the ocean. His favorite movie was My Life as a House. He watched it no less than 1,000 times. There's a scene in there where Kevin Kline is reminiscing back to when he was younger and was jumping over the waves in the ocean with his son. And when that scene came on, Dad would lose it every time. The tears would just start flowing. He was an emotional guy. He wasn't afraid to show his tears. He could also be stern. He taught us lessons growing up. He hated any form of prejudice. He taught us its ugliness from our early years. He hated smoking. To this day, I've never even tried a cigarette. When smoking became no longer allowed at movie theaters, and before the opening movie credits, they used to flash up a no smoking logo on the screen. He would stand up and clap. The only one. We would duck down in our seats, totally embarrassed. He did not tolerate negativity or criticizing someone's physical appearance. He just wouldn't. He insisted on respect for mom. No pronouns were allowed referring to mom. We weren't allowed to say, "She told me no." He would say, "Who is she?" "Sorry, Dad, Mom. Mom told me no." When Dad's dad, our Grandpa Artie, was sick, for many months, Dad mailed him a card every single day until he died, without exception. We had rose bushes at our first house in Sarasota, and once a week, like clockwork, he would pick some and mail them to his mom, our Grandma Marion, in New Jersey. He was a great son. He would put together huge boxes of gifts every holiday season and mail them to all of his nieces and nephews in New Jersey. This is from his nephew, Adam, after my dad passed away. He said, quote, "One of my favorite memories of Uncle Jack was, of course, Hanukkah. Wherever Hanukkah was that year, all of us little kids were always excited for the box from Florida. It was the thing we always tried to find as soon as we got into someone's house. Uncle Jack would pack it in with so much candy that it would overflow and pour out as soon as we opened it. Of course, the presents were always good too. And he always did that funny thing with his nose and ears. He would stick out his nose. In order for him to stick out his tongue, we had to hit him in his nose. And then he'd pull his ears to move it left and right. And finally, he'd bop his nose again to put his tongue back in his mouth. I will definitely miss Uncle Jack. Dad wanted to provide us with a better life, so he eventually became an entrepreneur. He moved us from Denville, New Jersey to Sarasota, Florida in 1983. Commercial real estate was hot back then. Sarasota was a growing area. But Dad quickly made many connections in the Sarasota area, and he got involved in real estate. He started a networking group by himself, and within months became one of the largest in the area with over 100 members. Unfortunately, the timing wasn't good, and the real estate market collapsed in the mid-'80s. So Dad then decided to start a financial planning company. He called it Meridian. He started it at the beginning of 1987. October 1987, you guys remember what happened then? We had Black Monday, one of the worst stock market crashes ever. So again, not the best timing. But he persevered. He cold called hundreds of financial advisors to recruit them, and eventually he built Meridian into a 14-branch operation, gaining notoriety by becoming a member of the Inc. 500. I talked to Scott Moore a few days ago. It's one of his advisors from that time period. Scott remembers Dad always making him laugh. He said it could be the start of a rough day, and Scott be in the elevator, and there would come Dad, heading right towards him with that big smile. He'd get in the elevator, and he'd start pushing all the wrong buttons, like that little annoying kid we've all seen do it before. But with Dad, who was always a kid inside, no matter how old he was, he made it all fun. My dad trusted people. People used to say he had rose-colored glasses. He looked for the good in everybody, sometimes to a fault. In 1995, he grew this beautiful company, and he was thinking about merging with another company. So Mom and Dad met with this potential company, and after they had dinner, Mom, with that woman's intuition, she said, "I don't like him. I don't think you should do it. I don't trust that guy." So Dad called it off. But then he just thought about it, and he trusted people. So he called it back on, and the deal went through. Unfortunately, Mom was right. This person turned out to be not so honest, and he ended up stealing money from Dad's company, and in 3 months, the company was bankrupt. So 8 years of hard work gone. The stress was hard. 1 year later, Mom, we think from the stress, was diagnosed with cancer. This hurt Dad more than you can imagine. But Mom, over time, recovered, and she's been super healthy ever since. Dad fought hard to support his family. It's never too late for a change in careers. He got back in the financial business, but this time, he started advising clients and not advisors. It took him 50 years, but Dad would tell you he finally found his true passion. He loved helping his clients, and many of you here today are his clients. He would take calls wherever he was. It drove Mom crazy. He was always answering that phone. For Dad, it was never about the money. He helped anyone, anytime, no matter how large or small the client. If he didn't have much at all, he did it for free. His clients became family. Dad went to their birthdays, weddings, funerals. He was always there. He didn't know how to manage time, though. He could talk. There were many 30-minute meetings that quickly became 2 hours. Then Dad found passion number 2, charity. He created the Wolf Memorial Scholarship for new college students. He would narrow the field of many down to 3 finalists. Then he'd personally interview each of them and get to know them. There were always 3 amazing kids. To qualify, you had to not only be a good person with great potential, but you also had to have many challenges in your lives. After meeting the 3, he knew the winner. But rather than just give it to the winner, he called them back for a second interview. But unbeknownst to the candidate, the winning candidate, they would be the only one coming in that day, not knowing they had won. And during that second interview, after some small talk, he would look them right in the eye and say, "So, how will you feel after we tell you that you're this year's winner?" And he would just sit there and watch the joy and the tears, and to say that would make his day would be an understatement. T.J. Badali, one of his first scholarship winners, who like all of them remained close with Dad over the years, he emailed this to me after, or actually emailed this to Tina after Dad died. Quote, "Oh my goodness, I had sent Jack a few emails updating him on my life. I just thought he had gotten busy with work or was enjoying time with Marilyn as he deserved. I am honestly very taken aback by this. Thank you for telling me. He always did everything for others. He is and will continue to be the best human being I know. I am heartbroken over this. I am so lucky to have been a part of his life, as he will forever be in mine." Dad traveled the world helping people, sometimes alone, sometimes with Mom, sometimes with me. He went to Haiti, Africa, Peru, Costa Rica, Romania. In Malawi, Africa, he met Isaac, who was a local there running the project where Dad helped build a library for the local school. Isaac's lifelong dream was to someday go to America. Well, the following year, Dad surprised Isaac and flew him to America. He came to Sarasota for Dad's client event that year. In Romania, he taught English. We did that one together. We had no clue what we were doing. We were winging it 100%, and I can never forget our morning meetings, trying to put together our daily agenda, just looking at each other, cracking up. We were trying to figure out our scheme for the day on how to teach these kids a language in just 1 week. You know what? I have to say, whatever we did actually worked. We grew close to the kids, and many of the kids had noticeable improvements by the end, and they all, of course, just adored Dad. We used to play hangman, and these kids got good. They got too good. So Dad thought he got smart, and he picked a word they would never know. No vowels. He picked crypt, C-R-Y-P-T. He thought they'd never figure it out. Little did he know, I secretly told one of the students in advance. The student raised his hand and calls out the letter C. No big deal, he got that right. Then he calls out R, and then Y. You should see the look on Dad's face. Total shock. He didn't understand this. Then without calling out another letter, the kid just shouted out, crypt! My dad couldn't believe it. And his idea failed, but he laughed when he found out what I did. So suffice it to say, he got me back. One of his students was named Anna Maria from Romania. Sweet girl with an abusive father and a not so nice mother. He took Anna under his wing and helped put her through college. After Dad died, she came to me and she said, quote, I know life is not perfect. I know life is not easy. But now I know life is good. It's more than good. It is extraordinary, and one of the reasons why is you. And that's to Dad. Some other comments. One of his lifelong friends, Carol, quote, oh, Jack, we miss you already. Jack was the best friend one could ever ask for. We'll see you on the other side. Love, Carol. 2 of Dad's granddaughters and 2 of my daughters are now engaged, Maddie and Allie. Unfortunately, he never got to know about Allie because she just became engaged last week. But his 2 future grandson-in-laws, one of them here today, one of them is named Mark, who's marrying Maddie. Mark said, quote, approval from someone like Popo, they call it the grandpa Popo, is an honor. He was a great mentor to all of us. Then Allie is marrying Dan. I know, can you believe it? Another Dan and another Mark in the family. Very confusing stuff. Dan said, please know how much Popo meant to me, having only known him the last 5 years. I have learned so much from him about life, family, and much more. Seeing how happy and joyful he was every time Allie told him that we're coming to Vermont for the weekend was amazing. I'm going to miss him so much and forever grateful to get to know him like I did. I will never forget some of the conversations and laughs. They'll resonate with me forever. My dad's sister, Judy, said, my brother Jack, a friend, is on a new journey, or should I say his journey is evolving. We can't be selfish. Someone as gifted and special will always have to move around to share his love, his help, his friendship. He had a special gift of making anyone he was talking to the most important. I am sure if you asked any of the 3 J's who was the closest with him, we all raise our hand. If you think deep, you can see that Jack's work is finished here. Look around you. Look what he created with the love of his life, Marilyn. He touched lives wherever he went. We could be here all day and night, and there still wouldn't be enough time. Just yesterday, I had an appointment with someone he used to go see, and she told me 2 stories that she said never happened with any other client. One of them, she said, he had an appointment, he forgot his credit card. She said, it's okay, you can pay me next time. He said, nope. He just reeled off the numbers to her from memory of his credit card. Recalling a credit card number. Then she said, one time he missed an appointment. So when he showed up for the next appointment, before he even started, he threw down the cash and he said, this is for the last appointment I missed. And she said, Jack, it's okay. People make mistakes. Don't worry about it. It's not required in my business for you to pay for that. And Dad looked her in the eye and said, well, it is required for me in your business. So I'm sorry, but you have to take the money. Dad continued on touching lives for many years until the end. Sadly, about 6 years ago, he was diagnosed with a disease, which is part of the reason we are here today. Also, about 5 years ago, he had a knee replacement, and the surgeon put in the artificial knee incorrectly. Plus, there was other mistakes made on that operation. And because of it, he could barely walk. He eventually had to get 2 subsequent corrective surgeries, but he was never the same. He was never able to walk right again. And it's tough for a guy that's run marathons before. And this really added to his decline, but he never sued the surgeon. It wasn't him. It wasn't Dad. He stayed positive, best he could, all the way to the end. And he said to me, before he died, "Hey Marco, am I still funny?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, you still got it." What he was mostly worried about in the end was my mom, his Marilyn. After 53 years of marriage, he would melt every time he saw her. And he wanted to make sure that Marilyn would be okay. A week before he died, he asked me, and I said to him, "I promise you, Dad, she will be okay." And he looked at me with tears in his eyes and he said, "I'm comfortable with that. Thank you."
Well, we share the same father, obviously, so we're going to have some of the same stories. You'll just have to assume when you leave here that you heard mine first. All right, and sorry we don't have more chairs. First I just want to thank everyone for coming here today. Seeing everyone here, it would really mean a lot to my dad. This is kind of part 2 of our goodbye. We buried him in Vermont about 3 weeks ago, pretty much equidistant between my brother's house and my mom's house. It's a beautiful site, so he's in a good place. And then next week we'll be in Vermont with all of our family for a family reunion, which is also going to be a celebration, and he'll definitely be missed. So this is a celebration of life, and we're supposed to keep it happy and light, but of course it's easier said than done. It's a big loss, and a lot of us are still trying to process it. And to say the least, we still miss him a lot. So we can keep it light, but it's okay if it's still a little sad. I've never spoken at a celebration like this, so I wasn't really sure what to say, so naturally I Googled it. And Google said what you want to talk about is you detailed your loved one's most beloved qualities. That's easy. Share your favorite stories and memories. That's easy. And then talk about their legacy, which is easy. So I guess my big challenge is to keep it brief, because I could say a lot. And Google said I should keep it under 10 minutes. My brother didn't quite make 10 minutes. So I'll try to even make it a little briefer than that. And I do have a lot of things to say. They're in no particular order. And this, my brother said this as well, but when I was 8 years old, I would tell you that my dad was the smartest guy you ever met. I'm 49, that statement still holds up. Like Mark said, he was not only intelligent, but his common sense was immense. I mean, he was really grounded. And again, boy, was he great at math. The guy really could do crazy amounts of math in his head. My kids think I'm good at it, but they have no idea. And in his last days, he had said, "Look, this thing is getting the best of me. I'm really having a hard time functioning. You need to service my clients. I just don't think I can operate on a high level." And I said, "Okay, Dad, but I think you're underestimating yourself." I said, "What's the square root of 324? And he said, "Don't be a wise ass." and then he said, "It's 18, don't waste my time." He was the ultimate optimist. Like Mark said, everyone joked about his rose-colored glasses. One of his clients actually bought him a rose-colored crystal ball that he kept in his office. He loved to see the bright side of things, and that's why people were drawn to him. That's why his clients and friends loved him as much as they did. As you probably know, the Life is Good organization was one of his favorites. He bought their golf balls, he bought their t-shirts, anything they would sell. So to keep the tradition, my brother bought a bunch of those Life is Good wristbands that are on the table. So please take one, and also please take some of these flowers when you leave, because we've got too much. My dad was generous, and everyone knows that, not just with his money, but with his time. To touch on this college scholarship again, like my brother did, he just loved that. I mean, he really loved getting to know these kids and being a part of their life, and the letters that they write him, they would stop by the office, and most people that give scholarships just can't say that. And he was super thoughtful, and everyone knows that as well. I think he was one of the most thoughtful people I've ever known. And not just friends and family and clients, but with people he'd never met before. And sometimes he would just randomly buy my mom flowers. Other time when I was a kid, he would walk by my car, and if I had less than half a tank of gas, he was in the car driving 6 miles to the gas station to fill it up. And he didn't even say anything about it. I just woke up the next morning, got in the car, had a full tank, and I was like, oh, there goes Dad again. And also, if he met someone that made a great impression on him, he would go home and he'd write a letter to their boss and say, I just want you to know you've got a gem of a person working for you. I mean, he would do these things. And that was before you could just write a positive review on Yelp. You actually had to take time to do it. But speaking of thoughtfulness, I love this story. It was about 10 years ago, my wife and I were on vacation. And my mom and dad came and picked up the kids and brought them back to Sarasota and watched them for us. And they brought the kids back to the house early that day that we were coming back because the kids had school. And they realized that we had left the fridge cracked and everything in there was ruined. So of course, they cleaned it up and threw everything out, but while he was throwing it out, Dad took a log of everything that was in there, from mustard to eggs to fruit, and he went to the grocery store and he bought an exact replica of everything, so that the fridge when we got home was perfectly intact. He was a great husband, and like my brother said, boy did he love my mom. He talked about it all the time. And mid-sentence, I'd be hanging out at his house and I'd say, Dad, did you see the Rays game last night? And he'd go, oh, hold on. I was like, you see your mom in the kitchen? Look, isn't she beautiful? I mean, he did that all the time. And I think my mom got sick of hearing it, but I bet you miss it now. He was a great son. And like my brother said, incorrectly, he said roses, they were gardenias that my father would pick. And wrap in wet paper towels and FedEx them. Probably spent $30 every day to send my grandma flowers. And then of course, I know you mentioned the greeting cards that he sent to my grandpa when he was sick. And he's just such a thoughtful guy. And he was an amazing dad. And this is definitely from the heart for me. The discipline, the guidance, the love, the respect. Such a good father. And he had such a flair for the theatrics too. He was so funny. When I was little, I was about 8 years old, and it was the last night of Hanukkah, and he said, your gift is on your bed. So I ran upstairs, and on my bed was a 12-pack of white, tighty-whitey Hanes underpants. And of course I came down, I was a little pissed. And there was my bicycle, so, he loved doing things like that. In 1986, we moved to Florida from New Jersey in '83, and we were big fans of the New York Mets. And in '86, we went up to see my grandma. Just a random trip, we were flying up there. So we landed at Newark Airport, and we're driving to my grandma's, and my brother and I look up, and we're pulling into Shea Stadium. And I guess we were going to Game 2 of the World Series. So that's why he flew us up there. I think he spent every last nickel in his pocket to get the tickets from a scalper. And the Mets lost, but hey, you know what? It was what a great memory. But it wasn't, he was tough too. He wanted me to have good values, integrity, accountability, kindness to others, work ethic. I didn't have a lot of chores growing up. He was pretty easy on me. My biggest chore was mowing the lawn. It took me about 90 minutes. I had to do it once a week. And all I did was bitch about it. You would think that he was asking me to work 20-hour shift in a coal mine. And so one day he came home from work and it was late at night and he noticed that the grass hadn't been cut all week. And so there I was at 10 o'clock at night while he had his car parked in the street with his headlights shining on me. While I sat there and mowed the lawn until around 11 o'clock. And it's funny, you just don't think about it at the time, but that's just one of those formative things that your dad does that just kind of sticks with you over time. But most recently, he was a great business partner. I had the privilege to work with my dad for 12 years, and not a lot of people get to say that. Not only did we share ideas on business and make each other a lot better, but when we were done meeting with our clients, I'd walk into his office around 4 o'clock. He looked just like that in the picture, even though sometimes he was pretty tired. But we would sit down and just talk, and before you knew it, an hour and a half, 2 hours had passed. He was just so easy to talk to. We really never ran out of things to say. And over the last year, as my dad's strength began to wane, I worked more and more with my dad's clients, just to make the business transition seamless, make sure everybody was getting serviced. And now when I talk to his clients, they say things to me like, hey, you sound just like Jack. Or they say, God, that's exactly what Jack was always telling me. Or they would say, you've got your dad's positive attitude. What else could I want to hear, right? I mean, being compared to Jack Wolf, is there a better compliment? I really don't think there is. I'll take it. And the last thing Google told me to talk about was my dad's legacy, which it's pretty strong, it's pretty sound. I think everybody would agree with that. I brought a picture of a poem that he loved called The Dash, and it's on the back wall. And I'm sure if you're his client, you've seen it before, because I would walk in and he would be standing up against the wall with his clients, and they would read it together. And when I first started working with him, I thought, that's kind of strange. But now that I'm getting older, I get it. And I wasn't going to read the whole thing, but what the heck. So it says, I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears, but he said what mattered most was the dash between those years. For the dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? And, he loved that poem. And I think we can all agree my dad should be pretty damn proud of his dash. He lived life to the fullest. He loved every day, as evidenced by the people he touched and the things he accomplished. I would say his legacy is pretty remarkable. So, again, I love seeing you guys all out here. Thanks so much. It meant a ton to my dad, so thanks.
Obviously, I'm a man that needs no introduction. Hey everybody, I'm Les McCurdy from McCurdy's Comedy Theater. And they called in Maryland. We've known them for a while, and I'm happy to be here. And Jack was just a wonderful guy. I got to know him later, so I'm here. First of all, he would want me to tell a joke that would be stupid not to. Okay, so I'll try to not be too inappropriate. All right, there's an old man in a nursing home standing in the middle of the lobby, dazed and confused, and an old woman walks up to him and says, I can guess your age. And he goes, no, you can't. She goes, yes, I can. He goes, no, you can't. She goes, drop your shorts. He goes, okay. And he does. She takes a good look at him and goes, you're 88 years old. He goes, how'd you know that? She goes, you told me yesterday. Marilyn went, that was okay. A man was driving down a 2-lane country road, and he had time on his hands, and he sees a sign in front of a mailbox that says, talking dog for sale, $200. He had time. He's like, I gotta check this out. So he goes up the driveway, farmer comes out, little farmhouse, comes out. He goes, so you got a talking dog? He goes, yeah, come with me. Takes him around the back, there's an old dog laying in the dirt. So the guy walks up to the dog and looks at him and goes, so you're a talking dog? Dog goes, yes, I am. Because I've always been able to talk. I don't know why. It's just just something I've been able to do. And I've had the most interesting life, really a glorious life. I worked in counterintelligence for the CIA. I've been all over the world. You can imagine the intelligence I've garnered for this country, being a talking dog. I've probably saved this country several times. But now I'm pretty much retired. He walks over to the farmer and he goes, "It's incredible." He goes, $200 for a talking dog? Farmer goes, "Yeah, he's a damn liar." All right. So here's how I got to know these guys. Jack decided, Jack did those client things. Probably most of y'all have been to those client things, which I thought was pretty incredible. You had to look at those things and the money he spent doing it, and went, how much is he really charging us? And so, but it was really, they were great. They were just, and I know he had wonderful speakers, incredible. And so one year he decided he wanted a stand-up comedian, and he loved David Brenner. And some of you, and many of you are nodding David Brenner, and then these young people are like, huh? And but he was a comedian. He was really famous, and so he wanted David Brenner. And so I was like, okay, I mean, we can get him. I mean, there's a price tag, and he was fine with that. I imagine you were fine with that, and that's the reason he was fine with it. And so they were fine with that. But then he had another request. He goes, well, as part of the deal, I want David to have dinner with us and a few of our friends. I said, Jack, celebrities don't have dinner with somebody they're doing a show for, especially at that level. They just don't. They don't have. They don't have dinner, kind of a thing. I mean, most of them. Now, this is a sidebar. I will say there's a comedian named Jackie Mason. And Jackie, super famous. I remember one time a lady called me from Naples and said, it's my husband's birthday. We're doing a party on the beach for about 100 people. We want Jackie Mason. And I said, I'm telling you right now, I think he's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. And she goes, go ahead and check it out. So I called his agent and I go, look, will Jackie Mason do a birthday party on a beach? He goes, Les, for $50,000, he'll have lunch with a family from Alabama on the porch. So Jackie would have done it for $50,000. David was a little more reasonable than him. But here's the thing was, I had not known you guys long, but I'd known you for a little while. And it didn't take long for me. Normally, I would say, that ain't gonna happen. It's just not, But I knew these guys well enough to go to, and I knew David was a friend. And I said, David, I know this is unusual, but I'm going to tell you, it'll be good. It'll be good, it'll be fun, you'll enjoy it. And he goes, I'll do it, but you have to be there. And you have to sit beside me. And if it goes goofy, I'm out of there before dessert. Okay? Because it can for a celebrity, they can get in there and all of a sudden it's uncomfortable. Well, how long did we sit there? 3 hours. 3 hours. We couldn't shut David up. We shut him up. He just kept going and Jack was asking questions and they just, But that's a testament to who you guys are. Just that thing that even someone like him felt immediately comfortable, And then they love stand-up comedy. Both guys talked about your dad's being funny and the humor, and he loved it, and he loved it so much, he respected stand-up comedy, and even though he knew I did not have the money for him to even manage. But he loved stand-up comedy, and that was a joke, by the way. But he respected the art form, and so to the point to where I teach a comedy class, okay? And he said, I'm going to take your class. Well, people tell me that all the time. I'm going to do it, and then they never do it. You know what I mean? So finally, he's like, hey, I'm going to do it, and guess what? Marilyn's going to do it with me. And he kind of said it in a way it's like, we'll help her along. I said, Jack, I just want to put this in your ear because I know you're not a super guy with ego, but there's a good chance, because in my class, you go through class and then you perform. You go up on the stage at the comedy theater in front of 200 people and you do 5 minutes, right? That's the deal. And I said, Marilyn might be way funnier than you. And she was. You were. It's true. But that leads to his character, you know what I mean? I can tell you that. Stand-up comedy is something that most people won't even try. I'm going to be willing to bet most nobody in this room has ever tried. You know, and it either takes great courage or incredible stupidity. One or the other. I started with the stupid on my end and then learned along the way. But it just takes great courage and character and self-assurance and, you know, and just that, just so self-assured that, hey, I can try this. And obviously, I didn't know the stories you guys told, but obviously that was just a part. He was not obviously scared or nervous. Well, sure, we all get scared, but he wasn't nervous about anything. He to go try it, whether he knew what he was doing or not. You guys went on money, you didn't know what you were doing. He goes, okay, what the hell, let's go give it a shot. You know what I mean? And it works out, because I'm sure he just knew that if you go in with the best intentions, the best things will happen, you know. And just you guys, you exemplified that. And it's just great. It's been such a wonderful thing to know you guys. They always sit in the front row, which is a little startling when you walk on stage and people you know are on the front row, just right. Hi. It's like it's weird to not speak. You know, you're walking out to a show and it's like, oh, hey, Jack, Marilyn, how's it going? You know, whatever. You know, and see, I got that. David Brenner. There's that. Good. I think I stayed under 10 minutes. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I'm happy to do, is that we have four people, or actually a couple, or couples, and maybe they come here, that just want to say a little bit about Jack, and we're going to bring them up here, and then kind of, get back to just mingling, I'm sure. And so I think the first person that is coming up is Jim Cooper. Jim Cooper. And Jim's in the back, and here comes Jim. I saw Jim earlier. And Jim's, you can give him a round of applause. Sure. Of course. There you go. 5 minutes, Jack.
I'm very happy that I have to follow Les McCurdy. I don't have jokes. What I do have is a story. Jack had a huge impact on my life. I'm a financial advisor because of Jack. But I want to share a story. He taught me the most important lesson, which was how to be a father. I was maybe 14 years old. The Wolves built a brand new house in Bentry, and back in the day, Bentry was the place to be. It was beautiful. And Mark invited me to spend the night, and Mark said, let's go out and kick a soccer ball against the garage. And I was like, okay. So we did, and Jack stuck his head out the garage door, and I learned the first lesson of being a dad. He said, Mark, don't kick the ball against the garage. You're going to break something. First lesson is give your kids good, honest, direct advice. Then he closed the door and went inside. And I was like, okay, that's the second lesson, which is give your kids the freedom to either accept the advice or not accept the advice. And if you know Mark, Mark is one of those kids that every family has, a stubborn, bullheaded, adventurous kid. So Mark said, I'm not taking my dad's advice, and started kicking the ball. And I was looking at Mark and saying, I don't know if that's a good idea. As soon as Jack opened the door, Mark kicked the ball and hit one of the beautiful lanterns, and it went smash. And I learned the third lesson of being a dad, which is discipline's a form of love, and Mark was about to be loved. And Jack started chasing Mark, and Mark started running around the house, and I'm sitting there watching this, and here comes Mark, and here comes Jack. And then Mark comes around again, and fortunately Mark was faster than Jack, and he never caught up with him. Through the years, there were many instances like that, and I never saw Jack chase him, but I always heard Jack yell at the top of his lungs, "Mark! Mark!" Thousands and thousands of times. And the coolest thing about that night was, what I learned, which was the most important, is before we went to bed, Jack forgot about the whole incident, and he told Mark he loved him. And I said, I wish my dad was like that. So anyways, Mark was blessed with a child that was stubborn, bullheaded, and adventurous. And for the last 20 years, I've been listening to Mark scream at the top of his lungs, "Joshua, Joshua, Joshua!" And I have a son that is stubborn, bullheaded, and adventurous, and I've been screaming his name for 14 years as well. All because of Jack Wolf. And I'm pretty sure if there's any grandchildren in here of Jack's, you're probably going to have stubborn, bullheaded, adventurous children, but you have a game plan because I learned it from Jack, and I'm sure you did as well. And so I got to see Jack a few days before he passed. And he hugged me, and he whispered in my ear, "I love you." And I was like,
Bob and Joanne Hall, or one or the other? You here? Yes. Bob?
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because the two of us met Jack through one of his seminars that he had. You can hear me? Through one of his seminars that he had. And we went, and it was at the Ritz-Carlton. And as you know, in the past, or many of you as old as we are, you find out you find out that there's one every day of the week. And so we decided, she'd never seen the Ritz-Carlton, and this is where Jack was having it. So we decided, okay, let's go to that. What do we got to lose? So we went to that seminar at Ritz-Carlton, and that's where we met him. Only thing was, we got there, and it was a little bit late, I guess, and the seminar was full. So we ended up in the hallway at a table, and Sharon and Tina both were aware of it, and I have to say that he hires great people. But either way, we're there, and we had that, and I was going down the aisle, and I had come back from the restroom, and some guy says to me, he said, "This one's really good." He said, "The food's great." I said, "What do you mean? It's good, it's fine, but we just came to see the hotel." And he said, "Oh, we do this 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday." He said, "That's how we get our meals." And so, in the meantime, Sharon sat with us through the whole meal, through the whole presentation. And in the end, we decided, well, let's go talk to Jack. Let's see what he's got. Because we're new down here from up north like everybody else. And we decided that maybe we needed some help. So we went to him, and about the first thing I said was, I told him why we were there, because we had that conference with the fellow down the hallway. So anyway, it has become a wonderful relationship, both with he, Marilyn, family. We just really enjoyed that. so forth. And Joanne's got another story she'd tell.
Oh, I just wanted to say, over the years, we've gotten to know Jack pretty well, as most of you have, I'm sure. But when we were in the process of making a big decision financially, which wasn't necessarily what you all might consider big, but I would say to Jack, what do you think about that? And he forever would say to me, Joanne, you can afford it. And I always, I gave him credit because he was the one that made it possible. So.
That's it for us.
What a wonderful time. Well, I'm happy for him. He's back in the room. He's happy. He's relaxed.
Thank you. No one's talked about Jack's golf game, I noticed. He could play very badly with grace, with complete grace. He never got upset. I never saw him throwing. Well, get a little upset. He didn't throw clubs. He threw insults. No clubs. Doug Ekman. Doug, who was at the David Brenner dinner. Yes, you are.
Hi, everybody. My name is Doug Ekman. I was Jack's best friend, and Jack was my best friend. That's why I'm here. Some of the clients know me better as Sharon Ekman's husband. So 14 years that she worked for and with Jack. I thought I had enough challenges in my life. And then I come here today, and I follow Mark Wolf, who's the first speaker, Jack's oldest son, followed by his baby boy, Dan. Another highlight of Jack's life, having another boy, and in the business and partners and so forth. So I have to follow those two. Then I follow Les McCurdy, professional comedian, entrepreneur, man about town, needs no introduction. And then the Halls were so gracious in what they talked about. Started off as clients of Jack's and became friends, like everybody. So another challenge to go with the rest of my life, that's all I can tell you. I could do this in about 1 minute, but I won't. Jack Wolf was the nicest, kindest, most loyal, real person I've ever met. Unbelievable. And you heard some things from Mark and Dan already, and you're gonna hear the same thing from me, only from a perspective of a friend, not a son. But the person is the same that we're talking about. And I think back at this point in time, especially during the last month, people said you guys were best friends, the evolution of it. And let me go one place first. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and in Cleveland, Ohio, where we grew up, you didn't hug another man. Anytime Jack and I were together, when we left each other, when we had lunch together or dinner together, we hugged. In Cleveland, Ohio, you didn't tell another man you loved him. And with Jack, every time we got off the phone together, we told each other we loved each other. And that wasn't normal to me. But you know what? With Jack, it was normal. It just felt right. And I didn't feel funny about it at all. Matter of fact, I felt pretty good about it. So I allude to the beginning, last month especially, some people said, where did you meet? What happened? How did you ever get together? And it was 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago exactly. It was October of 2001. And a third party knew both of us and said, you two need to get to know each other. And they arranged for us to have breakfast together at, matter of fact, I remember where it was, First Watch on Main Street in downtown Sarasota. And we both got there and we sat down and we're going, now what do we do? And he said, okay, I'll take the bull by the horns. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, my background, and so forth. and we'll get to know each other a little bit. So, sounds good to me. And he said, I was nothing unusual. Grew up north and moved down here several years ago to Florida with my wife. And I said, I grew up north and moved down here several years ago with my lovely wife. He said, I'm a mama's boy. My mother and I had the world's greatest mother-son relationship. I love my mother. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not embarrassed about it. I'm proud of it. And then I said, no, I have the world's greatest mother. I have a relationship with my mother better than yours. Well, we argued for a little bit, just getting to know each other. We didn't go too far into it, and we decided to let it go. And then he said, I grew up with 2 brothers and a sister. Joel, Jeff, and Judy. You notice all the J's? I think Mark talked about that, all the J's. And I said, no, I grew up with 2 brothers and a sister. Rich, Jerry, and Nancy. Okay. And he said, I have 2 grown sons that I love and adore, Mark and Dan. And I said, no, I have 2 sons that I've grown up and adore, and they're Eric and Bob. This is getting crazy here. This is and I said, you know what? Enough of you taking charge. I'll take it from this point. I was born in 1946. He said, no, I was born in 1946. Okay, this is nuts now. Okay. Let's go to the abstract now. My entertainer, people that I love entertaining, we're both the same age, obviously, born the same year. And who were the stars then, singing groups? The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Simon and Garfunkel, Four Seasons, the normal famous people. And I said, my 2 favorite entertainers, you won't know, they're kind of cult, off the wall kind of guys. And the first one I said is a guy named Harry Chapin. I know you never heard of him. He goes, Harry Chapin, his brother Jim, Jerry, his father was a painter. I have a book. He sang Taxi, I Want to Learn a Love Song, Sequel, and he started naming 10 songs of Harry Chapin. Nobody knows Harry Chapin other than his cult following. He knew Harry Chapin and loved Harry Chapin. And I said, well, I know I'm going to get you now. Because in this room right now, if you don't know me and you didn't know Jack, I guarantee you never heard of this guy. And I said, my favorite singer of all time is Marvin Gaye. And the silence tells me I'm right. Marvin Gaye's stage name is Meatloaf. Meatloaf, my favorite singer of all time. And I said, and don't tell me you've heard of him. Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell, I'll Do Anything for Love, all rip. And he went on to name 10 songs of Meatloaf's. You know, and this is just so bizarre. How can this be? And later on, as we became friends, a 20-year friendship, wherever Meatloaf appeared, we went to see him. Ruth Eckerd Hall here locally, we went there 10 times, 8 times, just he and I, and then later on we had other friends go with us, and we just had a ball. Now, along the friendship line, I get a call and he goes, what are you doing 2 weekends from now? I don't know. Well, check your calendar. So I checked my calendar. I said, I'm free. He goes, good, we're going to New Jersey. Oh, and what are we doing in New Jersey? Meatloaf is appearing in New Jersey, near where my brother Joel lives. I already have the tickets. Make your airplane reservation. We're going to see Meatloaf perform in New Jersey, and we're staying at my brother Joel's house. And we did. Now it's another year or 2 passes by, and I called him. Jack, what are you doing 2 weeks from now? I don't know. Well, check your calendar. So he checked the calendar and said, I'm free. Good. Because Meatloaf is appearing in Houston, Texas. I have the tickets for us. Make your plane reservations. My son, as you know, my son Bob, one of your clients, by the way, my son Bob lives in a suburb of Houston. We're staying at his house, and Bob's going with us to the Meatloaf concert. And we went to Houston, we stayed at Bob's house, and we went to the Meatloaf concert. There's also a byproduct story, which I can't tell you. Anybody wants to hear the rest of the story concerning my son, I'll tell you that, but that's a whole separate story. and I'm thinking back of the similarities and the third party that got us together. And, you know, he said, these two guys need to get to know each other. They need to be friends. It's obvious. And as I said before, I can tell you, Jack was my closest friend for 20 years. And I know I was his because he told me so, repeatedly. And he also gave me this, which is appropriate right now. It's called Friends for Life. It says, when two people have shared as much as you and I have, when they opened up their hearts, shared their dreams, thoughts, and fears, when they know each other well enough to know if sadness is hiding behind a smile, when they shared so many laughs, then you can be sure that they're friends for life, just like you and me. Jack and I are friends for life.
I'm sure Jack would be upset if I didn't say he did make some pars and birdies occasionally. And now we have Tom and Sherry Wilson. Tom and Sherry Wilson, are they here? Yeah, okay. I think a big round of applause for Tom and Sherry, just as a sound.
Thank you, Les. Well, listen, we're last on the agenda here, and I know it's kind of drug out, so we'll be quick. But I was really thrilled the other day when Dan reached out and he said, do you have a story about Dad that you'd like to share? A story or two. And in my mind, I already had one. And I said, yeah, we'd love to do it. So I'm sure everybody knows the first time they met Jack. I sure do. Les talked about golf. I met Jack on a golf course at the Meadows through a mutual friend. And from there, that was back in the early 2000s. From there, we just became really closer, did more things with Marilyn and Jack, went to McCurdy's Comedy Theater. One day back in 2014, my phone rang, and it was Jack. And he says, Tom, what are you doing in a couple of weeks? And I said, I don't know why. Well, I've got tickets to the Masters, and I wanted to know if you and Sherry would join Marilyn and I to go to the Masters. And I thought for a minute, and I said, that doesn't take much thought. Yeah. He said, I've got it all planned out. He said, we're going to do the weekend before, and he said, it's a practice round. It's not the real tournament, but it'll be fun. I said, sure, we're on. So he said, get your tickets to Atlanta. We'll go up there and spend the weekend. And we did. So we flew in on a Saturday, met Marilyn and Jack. Jack had rented a car. And he said, got everything planned, all the hotels, you're going to love it. So we were in Buckhead at the JW Marriott. Most of you, some of you may know about JW Marriott. Really nice. We had a good time, did a lot of sightseeing. When we got in the car, we drove over to Augusta. And Jack said, I've made the reservations out here, and I've never done this before, but I couldn't get us all together. So he said, I've got you and Sherry right outside Augusta in a Red Roof Inn. And I thought for a minute, okay, a Red Roof Inn. And he said, and Marilyn and I are about 45 minutes away. That was the best I could do, but you'll be fine, you'll like it. So we got out of the car and we went into the lobby and we checked in. They said, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, hi, glad to have you. We've got you in the suite. And I said, boy, well, even though it's a Red Roof Inn, we're in the suite. How good is that? Well, the following morning, Jack and Marilyn pull up on the curb to pick us up. And Jack gets out and he says, so how was it? I said, Jack, I'm sure you read the damn reviews on this hotel. I said, because at 5 o'clock this morning, a rooster was right outside our window and did not let up the whole time. So we laughed, we had a good time, and we really enjoyed our time there at the Masters, and got to see Phil and a lot of the others, and it was just a good memory. I've got one other little funny factoid, and I'll let Sherry tell a story, but I was talking to Jack one day, and I said, Jack, I just called the office, and Tina seemed a little upset with you, a little annoyed. He said, what? I said, no, she's a little on edge. And he said, oh, I know what it is. He said, sometimes when I get in a hurry to send her a text, I fat finger it, it comes out tuna. So, Tina, you're going to be our tuna. But I'd just like to wrap up by saying, Jack, apart from being a great friend, or for me and for Sherry, he was a life coach. He handled everything in our lives. We started a business, he coached us there. We had family issues, we talked to Jack, and he was just wise. He was bigger than a financial planner, and I feel blessed to have known him and his family. So here's Sherry.
We found out very quickly that we had a lot in common with Jack and Marilyn. Marilyn and I are both breast cancer survivors, and we've been married forever, and it's been 50 years for us, but longer for you guys. But Jack was a friend as well as the life coach that Tom described. He helped us through everything, and we saw him the last day before they went to Vermont. We met them for lunch, and Jack had a really difficult time at the doctor's office, his restless legs, and he was trying to get an MRI. It was just really not in a good mood, but we had lunch and we enjoyed him anyway. And when we left, he got in the car with Marilyn, and he hugged us and told us he loved us and said, I won't see you again. And I thought, he's just having a bad day. He's just having a bad day. And so we kept in touch with him back and forth because, as I said, he's our life coach, and we had questions. Our son, who lives in Virginia, we have a son in Virginia. We have two sons as well, another thing in common. We have a son in Virginia, and we have a son here in this area. And we, of course, know our grandchildren here better than we know our grandchildren in Virginia, just because of the logistics of where we are. But our son in Virginia says this summer, we want you to sell your house, buy a condo in Virginia, buy a condo in Florida, and split the time. I want you to be closer to my kids, like you are to Caroline and Gabby, my other son's kids. And we're like, oh crap, oh jeez, I'm not ready to give up my house. I'm not this, I'm not that. So we call Jack, of course. And so Jack started talking about this book that he had read. And he talked about the compass and the clock. And sometimes you get your compass and your clock askew. And the compass is what your inner moral self tells you. And the clock is the time that you feel like you need to go somewhere. And he said, if your son wants you, you need to go. So 2 days later in the mail, unbeknownst to us, this book came in the mail. Wasn't signed by anyone, nothing. But this was First Things First. It's a wonderful book, and it talks about the compass and the clock. And it's an amazing book. If you want to read it, it's great. But this came in the mail. He didn't sign it, didn't anything. But we called, of course, and thanked him. And a couple of days before he died, we hadn't heard from him. We had talked to him. We called and I said, we haven't talked to Jack in a week or so. Let's call. And he didn't answer. And we left a message. And then we found out through Dan. Dan called us. Thank you so much, Dan. That meant the world to us. To let us know that he had passed. And Jack will be missed in our lives as a friend and as our life coach. And I know many of you feel exactly the same way. So Jack, we love you.
By the way, for those of you who don't realize this, a Red Roof Inn during Masters Week, which is a 1.5 star on TripAdvisor, is normally $37, but on Masters Week, was it $1,000? $450. Yeah, $450. Yeah, I've experienced that. It's quite an experience. And we have one more speaker, I was on a cruise ship one day and I was standing next to a gentleman and we're talking. He's a Jewish fella, and I made the statement. I said, you know, I know there are Jewish people from all over the world. Are there any Asian Jews or Chinese Jews? The guy goes, to tell you the truth, I don't really know. Ironically, a little server comes up, he's an Asian guy, you know. He goes, may I help you, sir? I said, sure. Are there any Chinese Jews? He goes, I do not know. I will go and check. Runs off. Comes back in a minute, he goes, no, sir, no Chinese Jews. We have orange Jews, grapefruit Jews, rim shot. Tony goes.
Thanks, Les. Yeah, I want to just say a few words because Jack's been a man that's been a great role model for me. I met Jack probably about 28 years ago, about as long as I've known you, Mark. And I remember him taking a strong liking to me, asking me a lot of questions, you know, where I was from, you know. So I was like, hey, I was born in West Coast of Africa, came to America when I was 10, I was in the military, college, I worked at IBM. He was like, yeah, I worked at IBM. So we had that natural connection. And then we found each other's birthdays were the exact same day, March 15th. So, you know, growing up without a father, one of the things you look for in life is, as you have your own kids, is who you may want to emulate. And Jack, for me, was always that man. I saw the love that he had for his family, how close he was always with his family. And, you know, just a couple of instances, I remember him asking me, you know, so anyways, how did you meet my son, Mark? Why are you friends with Mark? It's like, well, met him at the gym. He's trying to get 135 pounds up on this incline bench. Couldn't quite make it all the way up, so I kind of helped him get the rest of it up. And lo and behold, we became good friends. We watched the Cowboys. We became, you know, Cowboys fans at the same time. But Jack was always great advice. He was always positive because, you know, in life you go through challenges. And I'm also thankful because I'm a financial advisor also, and that's the lineage that comes from Maryland who got Jack into business. And so I'm very thankful for what he's done. But just to show you one example of his kindness, I remember one, it was like right before the SEC championship game, Alabama against Florida. I think they were ranked number 1, number 2. It was a big game. Mark calls me, he goes, hey, I think my brother Dan can't make it, so we have this extra ticket to the game. You want to come to the game? I was like, sure, I'd love to come to the game. He was asking, I don't know how much you paid for it. He probably paid $2,000, $3,000 for it. I said, sure, I'll get the ticket, no problem. So we go to the game, we meet, we're checking in at the hotel. Do you remember that, Marilyn? So it was our turn to check in, and the hotel receptionist was like, okay, so you guys are staying together, you two? I was like, yeah, by the way, how's the mattress? Is it hard enough? Because we go really hard. So Jack's to the right of me, cracking up. And Marilyn comes to me afterwards and goes, I see why you guys are good friends. But anyways, the game itself didn't turn out to be that good if you're a Florida fan, so I was felt bad for you and your dad sitting there after the first couple of plays, but it just goes to show you the kind of man that Jack was. At the end of the game, I was like, Jack, how much owe you for your ticket? He goes, no, that was a present for me, don't worry about it, Tony. So that's the same kind of kindness and attitude that I've learned from Jack. And anybody that he meets, he takes a personal interest, looks at you in the eye, and wants to help you. So, you know, it's like one of my intentions in life, and I think this comes out from having known Jack, is to add joy and value to everyone I meet. And I think everyone here can basically attest that's what Jack has done his whole life, is basically add a little joy and value to everybody he meets. So, Jack, we're gonna miss you, we love you, your spirit will live forever.
So, you know, this was wonderful, obviously, and from all the stories we just heard, what we do know is when we lose someone like Jack here, we don't really, because everybody in this room carries something of his that they're going to carry on, and which will filter down to your kids and generations, and Jack will be talked about. You know, good, bad, or ugly. You know, all good. He'll be talked about many, 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 many times among all of us over the next many years, you know, so he's still very much with us. And I'm pleased to be here. Thank you. These guys they're wonderful. Oh, then no doubt about it. And I'll come and when I run out of money, I'm going to come stay with you in Vermont. That's the reason I'm here. I'm done. I'll tell you one more joke, and then are we done? We done? Okay. All right. And you know, he's still sitting back there going, "Why didn't I get invited to the ball game? I don't remember that." Do you remember getting invited? No, I don't remember. So anyway, okay. And an old man is sitting out on a park bench in the middle of St. Armand's Circle, bawling his eyes out, just in complete distress. And I happen to be grooming. I see it. I cannot go up and say something. I mean, you know, it was terrible. So, sir, are you okay? No. What's wrong? What's wrong? He goes, I'll tell you what's wrong. I'm recently married to a 25-year-old supermodel that loves me every day. So what are you crying about? He goes, I can't remember where I live. So I helped him home, and we had a nice lunch. Thanks, everybody. God bless.